welcome to Upstage Downstage, with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain. On today's episode, we'll be discussing Home I'm Darling. We saw this production at Lyceum Theatre, Sheffield on the 21st of April 2023. BAFTA winner Jessica Ransom, Diane Keane and Neil McDermott lead the cast in this thought-provoking new comedy by Laura Wade about one woman's quest to be the perfect 1950s housewife. Home I'm Darling received its world premiere at Theatre Clwyd in 2018 before running at the National Theatre and transferred to the Duke of York's Theatre in the West End, winning the 2019 Olivier Award for the Best New Comedy. So Stephen, what's it all about?
Every couple needs a little fantasy to keep their marriage sparkling. But behind the gingham curtains, things start to unravel, and being a domestic goddess is not as easy as it seems as Judy and Johnny lead a 1950s lifestyle. Clothes, decor, appliances. She stays at home while Johnny works as an estate agent. He hopes for a promotion as they have financial problems and the house might be repossessed. They need to change, but it will involve a long commute.
But first, our post-show opinion!
Darling, it needs work.
Funny yet underdone.
So with all that said, let's
Set the scene!
So Richard, Home I'm Darling, would
Yes.
you like to set the scene for this play?
Oh,
please?
it's my turn, is it, this time?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Whenever has
so-
it never been?
Well, never have I ever.
Go on then, whilst I have a cup of tea.
Okay. So, we walked into the auditorium,
Oh, how unusual.
and if you can imagine, take your minds to a catalogue of items and a very 50s American-style catalogue where you'd see a house drawn out with all the items in a way that you would see that the perfect house would be made of.
For the family home and the woman.
And for
that
the
runs the
for the
kitchen.
little children running around, it's all those elements of
You mean like Sue and John?
yes, Sue and John. It's very much a very typical expectation of what the 50s would have looked like, not necessarily what the 50s was like. So it was very perfect in its design. So you'd got the clashing wallpapers on different walls. You'd got a couple of alcoves next to the fire chimney breast, and you'd got brightly coloured doors. You've got a yellow kitchen, so everything was in separate units. So
Yeah.
you'd got a sink unit, then you'd got a kitchen store, you'd got a smeg fridge to make
Standalone
your fills,
oven.
and you'd got a very Nigella-esque pantry. So it was, you went into yellow shelved pantry.
What came first, the pantry or Nigella?
Well, or where was the inspiration from?
Well, you don't know looking by Nigella.
Because let's face it, I love a pantry. My favourite.
I'm very jealous of your pantry.
I
You've
love
got
my
one.
pantry.
I want to make an extension just so I can have a pantry.
Pantries rock. Anyway, so but even the
Pantries rock or panties rock?
well, where are we going with this?
What is 1950s?
So what it almost felt like was you were looking at a book that had been opened and it was presenting the perfect 50s house.
/ Doll's House.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, definitely felt like it felt like a miniature world almost. The upstairs, which had very big printed pictures of the upstairs rooms,
That probably would have
the rooms would have been that were backlit, so you could actually see them nice and brightly to fill those gaps in the window. So you'd got the aesthetics of the frame of a whole house, including the chimney pot. It almost looked a bit like the Jetsons or the Flintstones. It was very cartoon-esque, really, a little
It
bit.
gave me a little bit of the layout of Roseanne, the house in Roseanne.
Yeah, definitely.
And where you say about the kitchen had a yellow design, the lounge had a greenish design,
Yeah.
didn't it?
Yeah.
And like when you say about the upstairs, with it being lit, that also gave it more of a 3D effect rather than
Yeah,
just
it
be a
did.
painted on top set.
It did, although, just my comment, I just think that it lacked maybe a little bit of distance between the image being right at the front of that set. If there was some glass or perspex and then there'd have been a bit of distance, it might have helped blur the line, because it did feel the image was very close to the front of that set piece, so it just felt a little bit put on a little bit, maybe.
And you know what? Looking at the set, the back of it, which is the upstairs, to add that height, I'm working it out that is basically been like pushed back from the front. So that would have been the upstairs bedroom where the chimney is. That would have been over the lounge. And
It
the
would have,
bedroom
and
over there.
it's just
So
proportionally, it's a
moved
little
back,
bit,
as if it's been rolled back, which sort of gives the reason as to why the wings from the lounge and the dining room are just straight flat, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
They're not angled.
No,
they don't
not at all.
rise at all.
They're just,
it's as if
they're
the
straight
top
in.
has just been sliced off and moved back.
I mean, the only other comment I'd probably say is the image of the hallway, the stairwell. The upstairs room has got very pink walls, and the downstairs is actually painted white, but it looks like the walls were pink all the way down. And if they'd have just made the real stairs the same colour, it may have blended a little bit better and helped give a bit of a, because you got the same effect on the fireplace, the chimney breast at the back of the room in the bedroom, whereas it looked a bit disconnected a little. So.
And also, I'd add to that the stage, each of the wall panels on the side, so the front room window and the door, along with the other side, which is the kitchen window and door, both of those walls were square on.
Yeah.
They weren't at an angle for you to get any depth either. So if you were
straight on, wasn't it?
Yeah, so if you were sat at like the sides of the stage, sides of the auditorium in the seats, you'd have a big gap of your view will be obscure. Really.
And I suppose
quite a bit.
We were sat quite at
was up front.
We were at the front, but even I think a few rows back, they would have just seen the sides of the stage being quite flat. They wouldn't have actually seen any of the windows in a way, all the detail, because it'd literally be straight on rather than a slight angle just to open that space so you can see it. Because sight lines are important when it comes to an audience, because you feel like everybody can see more then. Yeah.
And shall we just talk about the furniture? On this bit, because I
think so, because it's very
dated.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I loved the sofa and the chair, and I said this again about Abigail's party as well, set in the 70s. And there's something about period pieces, like the kitchen as well. I don't know about you, but I'm loving this individual thing, and I really,
yeah, definitely.
I'd love my house to have individual units like this, standalone things.
Yeah,
that's
I
my
don't
type
like
all
kitchen.
in one,
No.
but you got to have all in one.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
sell the blooming house.
I mean, it's quite funny because my friends in London have actually got the same coffee table,
the
glass-topped coffee table with the arching legs. It's the same design and everything, and it's original the same. So it's quite funny to see it on stage as a reference point. I think as well, the kitchen table was right. It wasn't a big kitchen table. It was
the Formica, wasn't it?
Formica proper. Yeah. It was of the period. And even if the kitchen's been built from units that aren't, they've made it. They've actually done a good job in keeping it in fitting with the period. And just to mention that in the middle of the two rooms, so you got the living room and then you've got the kitchen. There was a big pull-out screen that equally, obviously, we talked about both side walls. Because it was literally pulled out straight into the audience, you couldn't see if it was or had the design of it a little bit because there was no angle on it. You didn't know what it looked like a little bit. Yeah,
and also it was odd choice in a way because they closed it for some privacy for a conversation in the kitchen, but then walked past it straight into the living room. So regardless of there being any kind of invisible wall there or whatever, but then closed it again. Yeah, it was just a bit of that was just like an odd
it wasn't
thing
really
there. So they could have just done away with it.
I mean, one other thing I'm going to mention that I noticed that I don't know if Stephen did, but on the green wallpaper at the back in the living room,
right,
there was some scuff marks on the actual wallpaper from transport and moving it to and from different locations.
Oh, you beady little eyed thing.
So I did
You're on the
notice
front row, that's why.
Well, yeah, maybe, but I think
sit
I'd
you
have seen
a
it
few
further
seats
back. I
back.
think it was more the
Why, did you
fact
take your
that
binoculars out and look at the wallpaper?
because it was moved at certain points further down the production, I think it was...
I think you took to your seats a bit too early
I
to
may
be
have done,
noticing the wallpaper.
I'm watching a production that's touring that the National Theatre have done.
So what you're saying is you didn't notice the actors or the characters. You were had paid more attention to the wallpaper.
When my mind wanders, I'll look at other things. Let's face it, we discussed that in...
Oh, I can't wait to see how the full Monty turns out.
You just need to listen to Shawshank Redemption.
Well, there we go.
I'll count some rivets if you want.
There we go. Also, to point out, there was a beautiful drinks bar,
Yeah, home bar.
and that was nice. That sort of stemmed from. It has like a 20s vibe to it, but I suppose also 50s.
The 20s and 50s sort of crossed over a little bit in glamour and
it went back and forth.
Yeah.
Although less Art Deco, but with the diamond patterned wallpaper in the lounge, it sort of has that Art Deco-esque.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
ness about it. But I mean, it's got red carpet on that. That's a bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think that's where, like, when you've got the pink wall above and the white stairwell and the red carpet, that didn't feel 50s to me. That felt a little bit 70s and a bit like it was like, you'd have expected if you've got a very light blue rug, you'd have almost expected that maybe repeated on the stairwell to have that.
Yeah.
Because a 50s house was probably more about aesthetics than clashing.
But saying that, had the front room had the red carpet,
yeah, it would have worked.
Yeah, but the fact it went from just like the wood, and another thing. Okay, so we're starting on a bit of a negative already. The front door is the same door as the back door, just painted blue.
Yeah,
and it's got one of those where you've got the letterbox in the middle of the door.
Yeah,
but there's a great big glass window.
Yeah,
and a window at the top. Now this is the front door. You sort of think of them as being the porch before your front door.
Yeah,
but your front door's normally either it's got frosted glass or it's all
or the petal glass that's like mottled and
but either way it would have been all covered so you couldn't see directly into your lounge. So that's more that door seems ill-fitting and a bad choice for me because it didn't need it. It needs like a proper door.
Would they have gone to the lengths of changing the door when we were watching a modern production where they're living in the 50s?
Hey,
as in that door is wrong anyway, but would that door have been something quite modern as the only thing from the outside?
Do you think that's a 50s thing for the front door?
No, as in, if we're living in a house they're living in the modern world with a 50s house, but would the outside world would their outside door have been changed or
no? Well, there we go. I get you now.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, would they have gone to the level of changing the door? No. So it would have been probably.
It could have been a UPVC door that would have replicated the outside world. So that would have been another reference.
Yeah. So we've described the set quite well, I thought.
Yeah, we've done well.
And to be honest, it is quite a nice set. However, for me, I think that the door's a bit iffy. The kitchen's nice, but it's all. I think it's because it's all too perfect, and that's probably why it's good for the show. Yeah. It's too American, pristine American,
totally.
Which I think is wrong. However, it sort of works for her idea of it. However, the actual house, it doesn't look like a UK house.
No. But interestingly, to throw this, I know we're going to talk about the production as well as a whole. If the cast had had an American accent, would we have thought differently?
No.
But, no, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it was an American production, maybe.
I think it would have been fine. I wouldn't have had an issue with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas because we were definitely in the UK, you felt like it was a very skewed view on the 50s from another place,
another world,
not in the UK. At that period.
But but again, like you're saying, if they gone to the effort of designing and making the house look of that perfect
It's
50s
fantasy land, isn't
American,
it?
the American fantasy house and all that sort of thing. Would they have gone to the extent of building the house or renovating it to the point of it looking like an American house?
Exactly.
They might have done.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I think that's a little bit too far for it to work for me.
Especially when the roof is very American in its style, and with 50s
And the
houses
stone
in
for
the
the
UK.
chimney.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all red brick. It's rendered. It's we're in a world where this is. It's definitely fantasy world, but then that doesn't help when.
Yeah.
Or
if it's a new build, post-war concrete houses, quick,
everything,
knock them up quick.
Yeah, exactly. Could have even been ex-council or this, that, this. So it's...
So, like you say, if this was an American show, I wouldn't have had an issue with it if it was an American show.
And in a way, it may have worked better.
Yeah, it might have done a whole lot better. Now, we're still here for the drama, aren't we?
Yeah.
Are we?
We've just got the
scene. Oh, I know. Oh my goodness, we're talking.
We've gone
about
into props now.
Oh, are we talking about that already? Or writing and directing?
We'll talk about other props within it. But
we might as well just. Well, considering this is a bit backwards, Darling, I'm Home. Let's just start at the end. And then
go for
arrive at the beginning.
Okay.
So, let's talk about the props then. Do it a completely different way around for this one.
I thought, generally the props used were of the 50s period, and you could definitely see the mix between the modern day and the old 50s style.
Yeah.
Although I do feel that there wasn't enough reference to the real world.
Yeah, apart from like a laptop.
And the odd mobile phone ringing. There was other people that came into the lives of the two people living in this house that I don't think we saw enough of a change in their lives to give the chaos to this house in a way.
Yeah.
To try and pull them out of the 50s.
So are we now talking about the writing or are we talking about the props?
I suppose it goes with the props, doesn't it? I suppose it's like,
so
it's
I
hard,
think we're best
it's
off.
difficult.
So let's just go to the writing then.
Yeah.
And then we can chuck the props in. So, yes, as you say, there wasn't enough of the modern day in the 50s to give that tension at all. And I think you're quite right to point that out, actually, because I think we had a lengthy discussion on the journey back home about this. And it was quite fun, simply because we're not quite sure on this show. It had good bits, but then it had bits where it was underwritten.
Yeah.
Or half-baked. And I think that all stems down to the tension that is meant to build up. So Judy wants to live her 1950s lifestyle. She's given up work, and that puts pressure on Johnny to make sure everything works for him. But then it turns out that she's hidden a bank statement, and they're sort of going into the red. And
hidden the financial struggles that they're going through.
Yeah.
That they actually haven't got any money left.
Not really. And the issues then started escalating, sort of in a fake manner, in a way, because there was like a drama out of nothing.
And I think there was other moments where we thought that there was going to be other directions the production was going to go in, almost like the seeds were sown in the first half.
Yeah.
Of there being more levels to Johnny's character, and then they were almost thrown away. So there was like a scene where you thought that the struggles were very different to what the actual production was about.
Yes, it was a very odd one because it opened up with them being really happy, really cheery. Yeah. She made him sandwiches to go to work.
Took his slippers
off.
She
was doing all the housewife thing, and then at the end of that scene, she took out the laptop. So then the first gag was basically they're not in the 50s, although we were led to believe. And that worked in a way, but then we never saw much of the laptop again.
It never came out again, I don't think.
No.
It never came out of the drawer in the table, ever.
No.
It was referenced, but that was about it.
And then she had a neighbour come round with the shopping, and then she was emptying all the, your modern stuff into jars and tubs and stuff to keep it in fitting with the 50s theme.
And her friend was trying to become part of the 50s as well, to go along with it as part of... They were both buying into the idea as well.
Yeah, and for me, that was the first mistake of this, because in a way, you've got no conflict.
Yeah, exactly.
There. You're not mirroring modern with old to cause friction, apart from the mother.
But I think as well, it would have worked if the friend who was trying to commit to the lifestyle of the 50s and be that person, if we'd have slowly see her dragged back into the modern world, But all the way through the production, she was still in 50s dress, but mentioning that she's not going to do this anymore, she's not going to do that anymore, or this has happened, that has happened, and I'm not going to the 50s festival, I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do that. But you never saw her...
too much of a lifestyle.
But you never saw a change. She kept coming out in very 50s costume, and you're thinking, but is she being pulled back? Because her and her husband were still dressing like they were still in that world, and that was where, like you say, you didn't feel like there was anything pulling them back into the real world, and
to cause
the couple that are still living in it and bought into it to have that like will I won't I thing, but you never got that because you just didn't feel like there was a struggle. And there was the selling of the dresses. She was going to sell a dress.
Say that, exactly, and they were never referenced again.
No,
and there was a bit more of an importance about this particular dress was hand sewn, and you can't get that again. But then that was another thing that was thrown away. Nothing was made of that.
Not just that, with those dresses, Judy made reference to that she was going to sell these dresses on eBay.
Yes.
Which was the other reference to the laptop. That was it, really. And Fran said she'd buy one of them.
That's right.
And then when Fran said she'd buy one, Judy retaliated with, "Oh no, because we don't want Johnny to see you in that dress. He won't like it." Or it was almost like he's going to trigger him.
Oh, that's it.
It was almost like he was going to trigger him, and then it was never spoke about again.
Yeah, so we were thinking, why does he fancy Fran?
Or
is something going on?
Or not just that.
If
he sees her in that dress, is he going to do something bad? Or
is it like a bull in a china shop?
It was really jarring.
Red rag or something?
I thought, okay, so we have got some levels and some twists. There was going to go on a journey. We were going to go somewhere different, and I just And then we never saw it again. We never spoke about it. The dresses were put away. The dresses were put away, and that was it. And I was like, so this Johnny isn't actually nothing more to that.
Yeah.
But why waste time on that in the script? It was just a little bit unusual.
I think there was also a bit with the sandwiches that she was making, and she took them out. She realised that he wasn't eating them, so there was a little storyline of him going to a pizzeria with his boss,
secretly living the
normal
lifestyle in the modern world.
She was going to chuck the sandwich away, but then she decided to keep it for
put it back in the fridge,
day.
Didn't she?
Yeah, but then there was like a quick. What did we say at the time?
What we said was
explanation that there wasn't enough time passed.
Well, what we thought was that she was gonna. There's a play up to the audience, almost like, well, I'll give it him again, and he won't eat it, but I'll let him have the same sandwich for weeks. And he's still eating. She knows he's never going to eat that sandwich. But she's playing him at his own game. We thought there was going to be an element of that.
Right, yeah.
But within minutes, she referenced it. Well, you didn't eat it yesterday, and it's like, why make an effort of knowing he's not eating the sandwich? And then throw it away. It was like, and just throw the line away a little bit. It was just felt like we didn't go deep enough, or we didn't spin it out a little bit.
Yeah, like she was just going for the jugular of getting it over and done with, instead of increasing the mystery or playing a game. And
I think if you're living in a 50s world or almost delusion, you've got to big the delusion up a bit more. Like, there's got to be little bits of
fishing it out.
You've got to take time rather than it being just dealt with. It was like, and I think that was the problem. It just was like, wow, we've jumped.
Yeah, and then we had another scene where the mother came in. Diane Keane played Sylvia. And she was more modern, and she just couldn't understand why her daughter would want to live like this.
No.
There was a reason why she was written in, and I think that was blatantly obvious, and it was basically questioning their mindset to begin with. But you could have had that with the neighbour.
Of course you could.
You didn't need that character.
No.
That character could have been merged with the neighbour to have either gone along with what they're saying, or to bring them out, or to have still given the references that the mother did.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's right that Judy needed the conflict.
Yeah, exactly.
But it just didn't seem to work all the way through.
I think that was the key thing of like
loose threads everywhere.
It was bigging up the delusion, and it didn't feel like it went far enough. It was delusional, but it didn't feel like there was more to it. It just felt like...
Yeah, I felt a bit deluded watching it, actually. It was like, what is this doing?
And I think that was the first half. A lot of it felt like the setup for the second, but it was hard to work out what the setup was, because when we got to the second half, you thought, well, what was the point in in that, and that, because why go through all that and watch it when it actually didn't turn out to be needed in the second half? And because, you know, if you want a good setup, you want to have a curveball in the second half that makes you go, okay, that was what it was, or, you know.
And they were putting out, like, the pressure was about the husband, which was like a misstep.
Yeah.
Having an affair, but it turned out that he wasn't having an affair at
No.
all. He was just wanting what?
It was
more
just getting
money?
mixed messages and trying to get more money and trying to be a good member of staff to try and
but he didn't get the job
promotion,
at first because Alex decided to give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And then it was a paranoia of Judy thinking from, I think Fran might have said it, or it might have been Johnny himself saying, well, is it because we live in a 1950s house style? And Alex was thinking, well, if Johnny's got like the little wife at home, maybe that's how he treats people, and maybe that's why he's not deserving of a promotion.
And I think the other thing as well was with all that the whole point of that was that Judy was waiting for a wave of money to come in to sort the debt problems out. But she was being the housewife, understanding where the finances were, never really conveyed it to her partner, hid it from him.
Yeah.
But she never tried to pay those bills either.
Well, exactly.
And it was really...
It was forced and fake.
But it felt like there was something missed, where if they'd have had a moment where Judy was trying to do something in the modern world behind everybody's back, or, you know, trying to fund... like, because we mentioned selling stuff on eBay, but it didn't go far enough. It was like...
Yeah, and I think when she hid the bills that were coming in, right, if it was really that dire, this is like making a mountain out of a molehill. If it was really that dire, she'd snap out of it. She'd go back to work.
Exactly.
But she didn't. She chose to stay in it and ignore the situation. Johnny saw it and hit the roof out of something that's easily fixable. He could say, why have we done this? Why have we got like a red letter day sort of a thing? Go back to work. But they never did any of that. And like we said, and you said in the car, what would have been better is if she'd have saw that note, kept it. How can I make extra money from this while still keeping this lifestyle? And the best thing about that is then living the fantasy and putting herself out there online, doing something,
even if it was being
on
the 50s housewife to intrigue
sort of like
people, and
a Brie Vanderkamp sort of a thing from Desperate Housewives. You know, that's sort of what she wants, but to play them at their own game so she can get money in to support her lifestyle by living that would have added more tension.
I mean, I didn't think about this one until tonight, but even if he went to work out the front door, she went out the back door to do a part-time job. But she was home before he came back. So and then they could have had that moment where they caught each other out later on. He got home early from work and she had to fake something, and it would have created so much more.
Because this is all about fakeness and force and a fantasy. So for her to keep her fantasy, she's sort of got to fake it to her husband in a way to keep it going. Yeah. Just so she's not cutting her nose off to spite her face in a way. Say, like, I can't go back to work, but I will.
It's like she needed more struggle and more panic to try and pay these bills without him knowing.
But exactly.
By dipping into the modern world just because she's got to keep it going. And also, it could have been even funnier if the actual house would have been a sitcom and they were living that sitcom life, and you saw the breakdown when one of them went out the room, you saw the real person. Yeah. But when they were together, it was very much fake, and it was very slapstick, almost Bewitched style. And then when one left, the other one showed the true colours almost, and that would have had more power as a production.
Also, at the heart of this, the story is about a woman wanting to live her life in the 50s in the modern world. Yeah. And for people to accept that, which is quite indicative of a way a lot of people think they want to live their life.
Exactly.
So they want everyone around them to sort of agree with that and go along with it. Yeah. Fine. But for this play to work, you've got to add in the frustrations and the uphill struggles, and how can she live that life that she wants, because that's her journey.
Yeah, it is.
How can she do that and keeping everything... everyone at bay, at peace and everything. By doing that, she shows her going mad or trying to lose it, and she don't want to lose it. So the whole task is her trying to keep it all together, but she's not
Exactly.
keeping it together because she can't cope. She can't do it. So therefore, somehow you've got to compromise,
Yeah.
which is what the play's getting at. But how it's written and how it's done doesn't seem to work like that.
But I'm also going to throw this in the mix.
Oh,
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Was the 50s actually that expensive? As in, was the struggle that real? Because they weren't that materialistic. As in,
No,
they
they
didn't
had nothing after the
overly buy
war.
things or keep buying things to mean that they were in debt.
Yeah, which I
They
think,
made do and mended, and that's what I'm getting at.
And the
It's like-
mother had something good to say about that as well,
which I
because they-
liked that bit.
Yeah,
that had,
because also
you
it
know,
brought it back down to earth, saying like it's people grew things in their own.
People made
This is
their
like-
own clothes.
Yeah, it started off a bit like the good life.
It did.
Didn't it? We'll grow our own things in the garden. Fine, fair enough. However, like there wasn't else in this. It had a nice overall image of it being
The
set in the
aesthetics were
50s.
there.
Yeah. The theme and what it actually means and what it actually wants and what the moral of the story is trying to tell seems to have just been sort of faded away.
It's like, for me, she could have been like Maria von Trapp, churning out
Kids?
50s dresses. Well, no, but churning out 50s
drapes.
dresses or making
Churning out the drapes.
But because it talked about hand sewn dress and this, that, and the other, she could have been, like you said, I think we talked in the car, she could have been doing a YouTube tutorial to try and learn how to
Exactly.
make a 50s dress
Yeah.
and then sell them to make money. And it just felt like there was none of that trying to fill the gap
In
or
the
baking
1950s,
cakes.
how can the woman earn money in that lifestyle
Exactly.
sort of behind the husband's back?
Well,
in a way?
exactly. And it's,
And she didn't go there.
it's the writing that didn't go there rather than her as a... I think it was missed, and a missed opportunity, really, to go deeper. You know?
And also, it came across as a bit like a man hater in a way.
But in a way, there was nothing to hate about him.
There wasn't. He was, quite
it
nice.
was really...
But it was like trying to be aggressive towards the man.
Yeah.
But it wasn't going anywhere because, he didn't do anything to Fran.
No.
Even if she wore the dress or not. There wasn't anything there. He didn't have an affair.
We only
He
saw...
still loved her at the end, and
Exactly.
he still wanted to be with her. So what the bloody hell's the problem?
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know.
She's got her way. She's living the 50s.
There's just a communication breakdown.
I want to live the 50s lifestyle.
But there's a communication breakdown. That's all we were seeing, really, rather than... It was actually quite linear when it was like... That was it, really. They're just not talking about that. That was it.
I mean, in a way, the whole idea of living back in the 50s when everything was lovely, the whole Darling Buds of May aspect.
Yeah.
I can live for that. That's brilliant.
But the Darling Buds of May didn't look like this.
No, it was on a lovely farm.
It was a lovely farm. I'd like to live in the farm.
Even though it was a bit like messed up or whatever.
But that was the
still
50s
great.
in England,
You can look back with nostalgia. I think it was a happier time. Sometimes we don't appreciate what we've got until it's gone. And
Exactly.
People forget that.
Yeah.
We can't always keep looking back because we look back now to the 80s.
we do.
Our childhoods. Oh, it was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Didn't we have it great then? Well, we didn't know social media.
No.
We didn't have mobile phones or anything.
No.
So our generation is one that was sort of on the cusp of having nothing
Exactly.
and those having a bit of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're stuck in the middle.
Yeah, and
That's
there was
quite
a
a good
class
thing.
system. There was definitely a rich and poor in those days as well.
Well, you're rich.
Well, I'm rich, yeah.
I must be poor.
But I think as well, we saw a glimmer of the potential for her for Judy to actually earn money illegitimately through. We saw a glimmer of the struggle because Marcus was done for.
And that's a neighbour, Fran's partner.
Yeah, Fran's partner, basically, who had complications at work because he'd been overly touchy with his secretary and stuff like that. And we saw that it was a bit of a curveball of a storyline, which
And it unravelled to be weird.
but it was the decision between Judy to potentially sell herself to Marcus to make some money
As a secretary.
as a bit of a fantasy, a bit of a just almost like a role play situation.
Yeah, because she said at the time that she's not like these other women who gets offended by, a man only has to look at a woman and they claim like someone's molesting them or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So Judy's point of view was very much, I don't think you like that at all. I'm not that kind of a woman, so I'll come and do it. And then Marcus was the one saying, well, is it all right? Do you mind if I touch your shoulder every now and again? Do you mind if I hold you at the back of your back? Your lower back. And then it just got to the point where she's like, no, maybe a bit too far there.
But the problem was with it was that far down the production that
Well, it was Act 2, wasn't it?
It was right towards the end of Act 2 that it hadn't become something where they could have had a moment in the first half where that had have unravelled at that point, and there could have been Johnny or Fran entering the room to actually catch them out, or just before they might even try it, just to stop them, and that's what it was like. Oh,
so
it was
maybe Marcus
yeah.
caught Judy in the kitchen
Yeah.
with a sledgehammer. No.
Yeah.
Caught Judy with the bill, and
Yeah.
she confided in him.
Yeah.
He was a bit concerned about what's going on with work, and
Yeah.
she says, "Oh yeah, Franz told me about that. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
How can I help you?" And then maybe she could have work.
Marcus could help
through
fix
him,
things, and
fix things.
They made
and then
they make
between
an agreement between them to.
How could we? But then again, I suppose depends what they actually do. Would he be pimping her out?
Well, no, but he was never talking about anything sexual. It was more about
No.
the experience of being a little bit too overly friendly with the secretary. That was
Or a fantasy.
It was his fantasy that I don't think was played out enough. If they wanted to have that undertone of like, it was thrown right at the end. It was too late.
Yeah.
It was at the point where we were like, really? It needed to start before that if you wanted it to feel part of it.
And I think also the whole sexual side of things, Judy felt like she wasn't wanting that side of things with Johnny as well.
Yeah, well, this is
so
it.
that kind of made her fear that he was having an affair as well. And I think I'm a bit lost as to what angle this was coming from as well, in terms of the character development and what this character particularly stood for, other than just wanting to live in a fantasy. Because if she just wants to live in a fantasy and it makes for a great set, great props, great costumes and all this kind of thing, there's still depth there that's missing. What can you gain from that?
Well, I know, and I think you see, every walk of life, people have different styles or different eras to what they like to wear, which isn't a problem. People all have different styles and wear 50s style, 60s style. Some like the Twiggy, some like this, and I think some
and you've come here dressed as that.
Well, exactly. I mean, I've been, my beehive just wouldn't get through the door, but But I think that
take a door off.
I know. Yeah, need to. I think that's where it doesn't feel enough. It's like,
it's overdone in one things and underdone in the other.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like she's cooking a pie. It's
even
burnt at the top, but undercooked at the bottom.
I know.
So in terms of the writing, it was slightly hit and miss for us, I think, as a newbie. I just think the whole structure of it, and I think it stems down to the character in this. Yeah. I can't get behind Judy. She's living a fantasy. Yeah. She's got bills to pay. It's on about the mortgage.
Yeah.
This isn't like 1950s mortgage. This is current day mortgage. Yeah, exactly. So you need these days you need two wages coming in to do that. And if you're going to get your house repossessed, you need to snap out of it.
Well, you do.
You've got to think, okay, so I can't keep living this. How can I actually go to work, but when I get home, be the 1950s thing, or as we've just said, fund it somehow, some other way.
Yeah.
But the urgency to not do that made it not believable, and it then made the whole thing laughable, stupid, and a farce because it wasn't believable.
It felt like she wasn't hiding it enough from Johnny. It was like she's not hiding the
one envelope stuffed under the sink, and we never saw it until he pulled it out.
And I think that's even if what she's trying to do to fund it still doesn't fund it. It was, you didn't see any of that. You just felt like
And then near the end of the play, they had to compromise. They first asked if they still loved each other, and then they had to compromise on what they were going to do. So they decided to both go out for work. It's like, well, they could have just done that from the bill in the third scene, fourth scene. They could have done that straight away. Have a conversation. So it seemed to just go around the houses a bit for no particular reason.
And she found a profession where she's basically can almost live in the 50s as an air hostess. It was that was it really. It wasn't.
Where's she going on? Pan Am or something?
I know. Well, exactly, and
it don't exist anymore.
No, I just think. Well, it felt. It was a weak ending, wasn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah. So either the husband needed to have been more stronger, like her, to be obsessive about
Yeah.
50s, to make her go along with it even more, to get
and
that
controlling,
pressure.
or like
Yeah.
because that's what we
'Cause he
didn't feel.
wasn't.
No,
He wasn't really that fussed. He was just going along with it for her.
because there was the scene in the first half as well with the dresses. I forgot about this scene as well.
Yeah,
there
probably
was
I have as well.
there was the scene where he got her on the settee and he was quite forceful with her.
Oh, yes.
And we thought we were seeing something where he was controlling and she was unable
Very
to.
dominant,
And he
yeah.
was treating her like a 50s housewife because of what her mum said in the second half.
Yes, that's right.
But then he was gone. We saw that.
She got him sort of worked up in a way, but then it was very much no, don't. No, they did, didn't they? Did they go upstairs?
I'm sure they went.
They did.
But it just didn't feel like.
No, it felt a bit fake.
There was no. It just felt another thrown away moment that was just like.
It felt a little out of character as well.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. So for this prim and proper couple who are really enjoying their 50s lifestyle, for him to have that sort of an edge, sort of came out.
He didn't have enough of an edge.
Do you know
did he?
what
That's
this
the
is?
thing.
You know, a lot of male writers get done for not being able to write for women.
Yeah.
I feel that this female is a female writer who doesn't know how to write for men.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to say it, views men in like a predatory way, in a way like that. You know, they just think it's all about the sex for them. But the character didn't seem to be all about
Well,
that.
no, that's what I was going to say. It was like
He was very happy to go along with it. He was very loving and
there was
caring.
only one moment that was like,
Yeah, I mean,
like
yeah, he's got
he's-
needs, but I don't think he would have been that kind of a bloke to have been that forceful on her like that.
not when for the rest of it he didn't show any of
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
There was some missed bits where it was. Like we said on the way home, there was
So
a
can
few
I just
moments.
interject there?
Yeah.
Sorry, just for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
train of thought, that the way she wrote Marcus, it felt like that scene would have been for Marcus rather than Johnny.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
That's all I wanted to say
yeah.
on that bit.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I was going to mention was there was no bits of frustration where you saw her give a look or bang her fists on the table or something that was really frustrating her, but she's got to mind her words because she's trying to hide something, or it's that.
Yeah, I
it
mean,
was that.
I can just picture like Brie Vanderkamp in Desperate
Yeah,
Housewives.
yeah.
You know, her world's crushing around her.
Yeah.
She's trying to live up to this like pristine, perfect lifestyle. You can just see her like dusting the glass or the drinks or whatever, and just something smashing in her hand or
Yeah.
something like that. Because she's
Well, it's
no,
not
dear,
just.
everything's
It's like
fine.
everything's fine. Shut the tin lid really hard. It's like the tin,
Yeah.
the lunchbox gets it rather than the people in the room.
Yes,
It's like
yeah.
you know when you're watching something that we know exactly what she's thinking because she's.
I think Judy only ever did something once, and that's when I think she closed the kitchen drawer rather sharply. I think it was.
I think we didn't have enough of that because it was
No.
like we didn't see any levels. It was like it's always about the things that aren't being said that are the most important.
Yeah.
In those sort of when you're living in delusion and you're living in fantasy,
Like I always do.
Well, of course, it's always about the times you do things that show the real you.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this lacked. It was like
It's normally when I get out of the bath.
Yeah.
I look in the mirror and I think, this ain't no fantasy.
I'll take the mirror
Oh,
off.
girl, no. Yeah. Mirror off, I bloody broke it.
One
I
look's
didn't
all
even
it
have to
took.
try. Oh, dear.
But no, and I think that's what was missing, the actual reaction and
Yeah.
the undertones.
Yeah, completely missing on that one. So let's talk about the directing now. So what I would like to say is I thought the scene changes and the transitions, I thought they were quite good. Some were slightly a little bit longer than they should have been. The majority of them were basically Fran and Marcus coming in, doing a little dance,
Yeah, the 50s style.
arsing about,
Yeah.
and then they moved props around on the stage, did a little bit more of a dance while somebody came in, and then they left. So that's basically to divert your attention of costume changes in the back or things like that, basically.
For me, it felt a little repetitive
Yes.
towards the second half because you're like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, stop dancing.
There was no difference in that performance. Like
And
there was no change in their costumes. Because, like I said about them not when they talk in the second half about not living the 50s lifestyle.
Yeah.
We didn't see them change into not living the 50s lifestyle. Even if they'd have done a dance that wasn't a 50s dance,
Yeah.
in
The Macarena.
in the scene changes. They could have still done that thing, but
They
just
could have
different.
done the ketchup song.
They could have come and do the conga, but it's that.
Yeah.
It's that. I think that's where it just felt a little.
What got me for that is we were introduced to Fran in the first or second scene, I can't recall now, and she also came on by being the change in the set as well. But because we wasn't introduced to Marcus early on, we didn't know who the heck that person was.
No.
So then for a while we didn't know if it was a speaking part or an extra or what. So that was slightly awkward.
Yeah,
and
it was
silly.
like, is he just an extra or?
Yeah, I had no idea. But again, why were they coming in dancing? There wasn't much of a hobby for them to go out dancing.
It was meant to almost be the jazz show, the 50s,
at the end where
the
they
50s
danced.
festival, like the thing
Yes.
that they were talking about going to, that then they decided not to go to, and that was the bit that was a bit like, is that the only link we've got to this?
Yeah, now I can't remember if Fran said something about dancing at the beginning, but it was so much of a throwaway thing that I don't recall now. So everything else since then seems to have been silly,
exactly.
It didn't marry well with what they were meant to have done. I think the best scene change was when they went in the second act from. We saw them before they devoted their life to the 50s, where they was doing up the house.
That was straight after the interval, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They changed it.
And then after the first 10 minutes or whatever of that scene, we then cut to them back in the present day. And the best bit about it was when Judy just walked straight through the wall of one, and it returned back to its wallpaper, green wallpaper.
Yeah.
And then she entered the other side of the wall, turning that back into the green wallpaper.
Yeah.
So two turnstile
And
flats on the wall.
And not just that, it went from a dead plant on the left
Hallway.
hand side of the wall.
Oh yes,
and,
that's right.
That was,
'Cause
and
one on the
then
stairs as well.
when she walked through, there was a nice healthy looking plant on the new wall.
Yeah.
But both walls had got ripped wallpaper and stuff like that to show that they were doing it up.
And lamps hanging off.
And and then they just flipped them round to be how it looks at the start.
And that was really funny.
It was.
That was good.
Yes.
There was a paint pot with plastic on the fridge.
Yeah.
That was just on there and then taken off.
And there was
why was that needed?
It was to show dust sheets and stuff like that.
Dust sheet over the pantry again. Why?
Well, they'd not. I suppose it was just to show that they were decorating in that scene across the lot. But it was just.
You only really needed it for the lounge, then, didn't you? Really,
You did.
Didn't, it was just.
I think the other jarring bit as well.
Oh,
was
you're talking about the sofa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the chair.
And the chair.
We covered them over, but it was that tightly fitted that it just looked like another cover. It'd have been better with dust sheets thrown over it to show that they were decorating. Yeah. With some paint marks on or something. That's all it needed. It didn't actually need
a fitted
cover. It didn't need a fitted, perfectly fitted.
Were they trying to make out that it was a different sofa?
Well, exactly.
Or what?
It was like,
but surely the cushions were on top as well.
Yeah, and they could have just pulled the dust sheet off and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
And I think that was it was too prim and proper when you want the chaos. You need the chaos.
Yeah.
You need that. That's the whole point of that scene.
Yeah. And what
it's like the back of Noises Off. It's the whole point.
Exactly, yeah.
If
That's
you're flipping
exactly
the set,
then
you've got to flip it,
Get out there and flip it.
Yeah. It's true, though.
And do you know what could have been ideal is that middle screen, which was pretty much useless to divide the walls, if that would have pulled out all the way, but then they could have angled it to cover the kitchen. They didn't have to put the paint pots or anything on it.
No, exactly.
They could have just had that whole wall covered.
We've done that one,
as if that whole wall is being done up.
Yeah, exactly.
So we see a different angle there, and it just covers it completely. So you see through the kitchen or
well, even dust sheets in over the window to show like that we haven't got curtains. We've just got dust sheets as curtains, and people. If you're changing the house, you do what you can with what you've got.
Sometimes you do a room at a time.
Yeah,
unless
well,
you're like me, ADHD, I do everything at once.
Well, yeah, but that's different. But if you're doing a 50s house, you could have. I
do a 70s house and get Abigail's parties couch. I'm not over that one. Now, in terms of the directing of the actors and the pacing of the play and stuff like that, how well do you think it went?
I think this is a fine example of if the writing's not there, it's hard to direct something any better than what it is already, because I think it was directed well for the writing that they'd got, if you know what I mean.
I agree. I thought it was competent.
It was definitely competent, and all the characters were there. They were their own characters, and you could tell the difference between them. But, I don't think they could have directed it any better in its current form,
I completely agree, to be honest. I felt that every movement, it didn't feel out of place. It felt right. The beats was good.
The pace was right.
The pace was right, absolutely. It felt like there was just one or two things just let down, and that wasn't down to the directing.
No, exactly.
Although, saying that, it's not that, it's more the transitions, because they did go on a bit too long.
Yeah.
And that would have been the responsibility of the director of setting that scene. So I think some of those things I probably disagree with, and I don't think they...
I suppose it's also dependent on, this is the current director at the touring production, rather than the actual creation of the piece. So that also can have a bit of a hold on it, in the sense of, this is how it needs to be. You don't know how much. They might not have had much creative freedom as a director of a new piece of theatre. It's more of a, you're doing this on tour, we've already done it at the National Theatre, and this is how it's going to be. So it is interesting to look at it from that perspective, maybe.
What about the dancing?
It felt like two people are trying to do 50s at a 50s event. I think, in a way, I didn't really expect it to be professional dancing. I expected it, you almost think they're having a go at it.
I mean, we're not expecting Cirque du Soleil to come down the chimney pot.
No, of course not. But I think I don't know. I think it just felt like they were at a 50s gig having a bit of fun in a room full of people, in a way.
Yeah.
But anything like that can look a bit flat and can feel a bit, when it's done more than once, because they kept doing it, and it became expected rather than a surprise. And I think that's what didn't help that, maybe.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're here for the drama. It was really nice to see Jessica Ransom play Judy. I thought she kept the character throughout, and even though there's issues with the character, how it's written, with the actual plot development and the narrative and the character journey, all the cast played their parts exceptionally well. They were all on point, and I feel like I've probably given this a bit of a bad stick, but I did actually enjoy this play for what it was, in the performances and the jokes that were in it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that it was bad.
I think it was, like you say, it's almost like...
What is this?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it...
Pin the plot on this donkey.
Well, yeah. There was times when you felt like, I'm really struggling to find the plot points, because where are we going with this?
Yeah.
And,
so many loose ends that needed stitching.
I think it just... The cast did a good job with what they got, and I think that's the key thing in this.
Oh,
key.
There we go. I thought Cassie Bradley did a great job as Fran.
Yeah, I suppose we've not really talked about Alex, have we, really?
They all were,
yeah,
to be
exactly.
honest. It's not as if I can say I didn't like any of their performances.
No.
They were all spot on in how their characters are, though there wasn't much journey within that. I'm going back to the writing again now.
But I suppose Alex's role did come in and was a bit of chaos to bring the modern into the 50s, and I could see why that role was there, and I think that she did it well, but I think that was her and the mother was the only two that almost felt like we were in modern day.
They were sort of going along with it, but that's another where I feel like the mother and the neighbour could have been pretty much the same character there.
Yes.
Fizzled down. Like the assumed affair with Alex and Johnny, there wasn't much out of there which could have...
but it was quite interesting. Again. I think it wasn't just that. It's a little thing about the writing as well. I just remembered this scene. Whoa. There was a scene where Alex was upstairs.
Yes.
And Judy was downstairs keeping the house tidy and making it look tidy. So you thought, are they getting it on and she's just turning a blind eye?
Yeah, she was looking around.
You were thinking that was coming.
Yeah.
And then she just turned up downstairs. It was like, oh.
Yeah, because at the start of that, it started off as a scene change.
Yeah.
So she came in during a scene change.
Yeah.
She took her jacket off. She took her scarf off. And then she went upstairs. And then sort of the full lights came on. And it was like, oh, Judy.
Judy's turning a blind eye.
Have you got a more tissue paper? Or there was something up there that she needed or whatever.
Yeah.
So you saw her go.
I was expecting Johnny to come down dishevelled and,
a little
whatever
bit you expect. Well, no, but
Richard. I think it was like I was expecting it to be less than just, have you got
No, I think you were expecting it to be more.
Yeah,
than the less
exactly.
That we got.
We got less. Yeah. That's not the actor's issue. It's
No,
the fact
definitely
that
not. Middle of the road, isn't
yeah,
it?
it
It's
is.
difficult.
It is.
So, on a positive note, it was all right performances.
Yeah, definitely.
And I thought Jessica Ransom gave a standout performance as Judy.
Yeah, and I think that I wouldn't be discouraged if any of these actors were in anything else. It wouldn't put me off. Think, oh God, they're in it. Not at all. They are capable actors. They're just,
That sounds like a backhanded compliment.
Well, no, what I mean is, you can only work with the material you've got, can't you? Sometimes. And,
Well, I have to work with you.
Oh yeah, you do. Shame. Moving on to our next segment, as we say,
What the Tech is this?
Oh, Richard, come on, this is your domain, really. The technical aspects of it.
There's one bit that was really jarring.
What do you mean, one bit?
Well, to be honest, okay. Can I just ask you a question, Stephen? When the sun shines...
Sun goes up, sun goes down.
Yes, it does.
As Bubble says.
What? Does it normally come in the kitchen and the living room at the same time, though?
It does if you live on a planet with twin suns.
Yeah, true. I mean, because we must have been on that planet, because there was...
Maybe time moves fast than 24 hours.
It was
and the
that
sun's
quick.
whizzing around.
Yeah, always. Because
Maybe that's what it was like in the 50s.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe after the war.
Maybe it was that fantasy world that there was two suns, because there was probably something somewhere else. However...
Oh, it might be
Was it a
symbolism for the fact that because they didn't have two sons, they got two sons.
There was children in this.
Well, they didn't have children.
Was the
did they?
divine light one side and the sun the other?
Hold on a minute. That's another thing. Why didn't they have kids? Why didn't the neighbours have kids?
Anyway, we're talking about the technical aspects rather than two suns. But anyway, we are in a world where there was
we went
two
back to
suns.
the writing, I think.
And on the actual stage area, what you saw was both windows of both sides of the stage, the kitchen and the living room, both had two big profile spotlights coming through those windows.
Yeah.
And it was picked up on all the window frames. So what it looked like was the sun was coming in both sides of the room at all times, which you then didn't feel like the day changed to night, or
there was
the
no
shadows were
variation
cast, or
of time.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen other productions where they've done lighting so well, set in a period that...
Yeah, the Homecoming
was it was fantastic. That was just light coming through a stained glass window and a normal window.
There's a Little Voice one as well.
And Little Voice was another one where you saw it go from day to night. I mean, you are going to struggle when you've got upstairs lit very differently as well, because the light was coming through every window upstairs on the photos, on the printed pictures. There's light coming through the skylight, through the bathroom and the bedroom, and it really is confusing when you're trying to go for realism.
That whole set was confusing. They didn't need to do that whole image at the top. It just looks wrong.
For me, if
they'd have done it like Abigail's Party and had the walls come up at the sides as
well. Exactly. And for me as well, we're trying to save money because we can't afford a mortgage, we can't pay the bills. They would rely on a lot of natural light. And it didn't feel like natural light. It was unnatural in so many ways. There was no difference. You'd got a lot of shadows cast on the chimney breast, but then you've also got shadows cast in the kitchen in the same time of day. And it was like, what the hell's happening? I'd rather have a generally lit scene from above so that there's no sunlight coming through either window. But it was just confused. And I think that doesn't show a transition in time or day, or... Even when you saw the scene where they were decorating, they might have had lights disconnected or this, that and the other. So you didn't even see it dimmer lit, or, when the fridge was open, sometimes at night you'd rely on the fridge light. You wouldn't go in the kitchen and it always be lit.
And they never closed the curtains.
No, exactly. That was just because the light was coming in to pick up on the actors to brighten them up. But it just felt confused.
Yeah, they never played with time, and they never thought about that within the whole technical aspect of it.
No.
When they come back in from work, if it's evening,
it'd be dark, or it'll
possibly,
be darker, or
the
light. There wouldn't be as much sun coming through the windows. The sun was always coming through the windows.
But those are those kind of things where if you want to show passing of time,
exactly,
you do that so people would know that time had passed. Instead of just going out one door and coming back and it's a different day or a different thing, break it up.
And also, would the pantry light always be on?
Is that a pantry light, or is there a great big door again?
Or is there another the
natural
window
light?
letting natural light through the two suns?
Yes, well, exactly.
You know,
is there a third sun above the pantry?
well, there must have been.
Is there a skylight
and
in
then
the pantry?
skylight, there's one in the... It must have been. I mean...
Maybe they couldn't afford a roof in the pantry.
And that is when technical things become lazy. It's like, we'll just do general cover, we'll put lights everywhere, we'll make it look bright, and then it becomes lazy. Like you say, there's no passing of time, there's no light and shade. We talk about light and shade in performance, but light and shade is just as important with lighting. It's you can do general cover, but general cover still needs to be done well.
Yeah.
It's not about just using it because you've got it, and I think that's that would have helped this a lot, really.
There's lighting coming down as well on the stairs from the ceiling.
But even that would have cast shadows with the skylight.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a pure white all the time, white light above it.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there any other technical things, music-wise?
They use certain elements of music and 50s songs and things, but I mean, it was in keeping and fitting to the production. It was nothing special. I mean, there was not really anything. I can't remember. I don't think there was anything sound-wise that they used off stage that was memorable. Really, I think it was just passing of time. But then they could have mixed it up with some modern elements, like for a ringtone or a ringtone or something that could have played on somebody's phone that then would have brought you up to the modern day, or it could have added to it. There could have been more of those things, or you put the telly on and it's like, oh no, I've put this on and it's not. It was like, why have a telly on stage?
Were they meant to have had a party that never came to fruition as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that was another plot thread that sort of got lost by the by. That never really happened. When they had people around, whatever, they could have put music on. Someone brought a vinyl. It was like of the wrong era. So it's like, we're not playing that.
I know, well, exactly. Like, oh no, this is 80s. We can't play that.
Yeah.
We'll play this. That was another thing, I suppose. It's not a technical aspect. It's more of a prop and a set thing. There was a record player there, but it was behind the sofa, and nobody could see it. It was there.
So therefore, what was the point in having a fireplace there?
Because why would I have a chimney breast if it's not? They
could have put the stairs there at the sideways.
Exactly. And
this whole set needs to be redone.
Yeah. And
not happy about
but certain items of the furniture can go to Stephen's house.
Yeah, I'll have that. I'll have them.
Yeah, I'll have some of the bits, but no, I think that's where technical aspects are so important. You might have all the tools in the toolbox, but you don't need to use them all.
When we were talking about Abigail's party, you said there was one vision, and that's why it worked. Yeah. This to me looks like a hodgepodge of several ideas going into a melting pot.
Exactly
the cutaway of the doll's house, so the top bit. Yeah, that looks like a different idea.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest of the design.
But the lighting didn't change in it either. It was like it didn't go up or down.
I still can't get over that front door.
I know,
That's
exactly.
a porch door or a back door. That is not a front door.
But if you'd got frosted glass in it, they only had no glass in it, so it showed who was entering and waiting outside.
You didn't need to see
and
that.
It was like, why? Because the door was
reason.
open and somebody came in.
How many characters have they got coming in?
Exactly.
Because everyone else just came and just turned things around. You know?
And
also, by the door, it was brick.
Exactly.
Brick around the front blue door and around the sides. So is that an outside door facing in, or is it? I mean, what is this? Because you'd have the wallpaper going around the door.
Exactly.
It looks like it served as a completely different door from a completely different set.
Exactly.
This being Bill Kenwright, it probably was the door from Blood Brothers or something else. Do you know what I mean? Or this is the back door, or some kind of door from Little Voice. This is a recycled door. This is not the door for this show.
Door.
I'm telling you now. Well, yeah. I mean, it's not even wallpapered around it. It's supposed to be the front door. And what is that? There's a window above the front door. On the inside of your house, you'd have windows above you
to allow light to go all the way through the building.
Internal doors.
Yeah.
But on the front door,
you wouldn't have one there because it'd be brick.
Not really.
It might in a porch.
Yeah,
If it's a porch. But it's not a porch.
It's not a porch.
When's a porch not a porch? When it's not a porch.
Show. That's when it's not a porch. When they got the blooming door. I just don't get this. The more I look at it, the more my stomach's churning. The set is the kitchen set's really nice, so
Yeah, I just...
Oh, no. Actually, I want to make something. Why is there a strobe lighting on the wall of the kitchen where the curtain rail is? Did you see that? I noticed that when we sat down.
That. Yeah.
And did that kitchen light ever come on?
No. And
So
it's
that's
so
what-
well lit,
It's
but
so
the kitchen
well lit.
light never came on.
Well, because you got two sons. Why do you need strobe lighting?
Yeah, I know. And
You
they
know,
were both...
There's not even a roof in the pantry,
And
so
I'm
you've
not
got
being
plenty
funny.
of light coming in there.
I don't know what... Are we in Iceland? Because the sun never got higher than the window height. I suppose we're in a surreal world
Yeah, where you have your lights on the wall.
and the sun just hovers
Why even have that
on the
light
equator.
there? I mean,
On the...
you've already got a light that comes down over the dining table, and the dining table is in the kitchen. So why have you got strobe lighting on the wall?
But when they
above
had the drinks,
curtain?
when they had the drinks in the evening, you didn't feel like it was the evening.
No.
And where's also, here we are, where's the light switch to switch the kitchen light on?
Where is it?
So it would have been dark. When you go in the kitchen, you switch the light on.
Oh, do you know where it is? It's on that folded doorway.
Is it an Alexa light though? Is it like that? Like, you know, do you have to clap twice to get it to go on? You know, it's a bit of modern.
Why on earth would you have strobe lighting on your wall?
I don't get it.
Even if you're redecorating your house to be 50s, why would you think, you know what? I'm going to rip the electrics out. I'm going to run a cable right down this wall. I'm going to shove strobe lighting above the kitchen window on the wall, not in the ceiling, because we've already got a lamp there that's never turned on.
Because it's an emergency light if the sun goes out.
Oh,
'Cause it'll
do you
imitate
reckon?
the sun.
If one sun goes out,
Yeah, 'cause that could
they
happen.
can't see in the front.
No.
So
'Cause
it's only the light at the...
it's probably got a sensor the other side of the wall that when the sun goes, that comes on.
Sun goes up, sun goes down.
No, the sun stays up, always on the horizon.
And there wasn't anything on the back wall either of the kitchen as such. I mean, that could have had a calendar.
It could
Or
have.
a diary.
It could have had.
show
It could
passing
have
of
had.
time.
It could have had a shopping list.
Yeah.
On there where you
Or-
could write, or a blackboard,
Or if the dining room was supposed to be different or moved away from the kitchen, you could have had the strobe lighting just under that little ceiling bit of the kitchen.
Yep.
And they didn't. So
I think for me, the fact of like you've got a Smeg fridge with a light in it, you're missing out on the scene of in the dark going opening the fridge, creating a bit of a difference in that space, and it was just always lit. So
Yeah.
you got no shadows, natural shadows being cast or anything, and I think, yeah. Next,
And now it's time for
rewind, rewatch.
what would you like to rewind and watch again?
I'd probably say the scene with the mother and the retrospect look on the real 50s.
Yeah,
that for me
scene 3,
is,
wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, in the second half.
Oh no, it was the second half.
Yeah, for me that was the scene that was reality hitting.
Is that the one where she started to have a drink and then had another drink and then started to have a cigarette?
Yes, it was, and that was when you
Yes.
saw her actually break, but also her mum telling her the real world and how what she perceived her dad to
Yeah.
have been the perfect father. That actually there was a lot more to it than that.
And
you know.
all her entire life was unravelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree there. I'd
Yeah.
revisit that scene just to see it.
Yeah, I think that was the one with the most heart and the most
Yeah, I mean,
realism.
the thing is, there was a lot of comedy in this.
There was,
but
yeah.
I can't remember anything about it
No.
because of how dud the script was,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Moving on to our final segment, as we say,
Call this a show?
Now it's time for our summary. Give me a summary of this show.
I think it was a well acted, underwritten piece of theatre. Really,
Yes, it was.
I can't say much more.
No, I mean, I get it. I enjoyed the aesthetics of it. It had a good premise and the ideas were there.
Yeah,
It was just half baked.
yeah, and I've said my piece. Technically, I do.
Yeah.
I don't think that people pay attention sometimes, or technicians or designers always pay attention to. Well, sometimes has the director just okayed it and gone, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, because for me, you as a director, you've got to look at the whole thing and go, no, we need things to change. It needs to have different levels, and it's not just about the performers on stage. It's about the look and the aesthetics of it as well.
Yeah.
Because then it makes the aesthetics and the props look better because you change things and things, you know, they changes to night, and you've got to be. It's important.
Yeah, this is a script with a soggy bottom.
Yeah.
Scores then, please, Richard, for Home I'm Darling. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being a picture-perfect 50s fantasy and 1 being stuck in a 50s nightmare. What's it going to be?
I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10 because I don't want to discredit the actors and their performance, but it was very underwritten, so I think it needs work.
I think that with a little rewrite, it can all come good.
Yeah.
However, it did entertain me. I'm not going to lie, but I was just a bit, what's it? So I'm going to say 6 out of 10 because I did actually enjoy this. So 6 out of 10 for me. So what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck, tumbleweed, an audible shrug of the shoulders, a slow clap, a pleasant applause, or a standing ovation. What will it be?
I give it a pleasant applause because I think that it needed more work. How about you, Stephen?
A pleasant applause.
So there we are, that's our discussion of Home I'm Darling. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
And opinions.
on many theatrical delights in future episodes. If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of Upstage Downstage. They need to change, but it will involve a long commute. I'll say that again.
Yeah, I think you should. They were
Like
good.
they made. So,
It didn't. It wasn't. I didn't. That's all.
why
they did.
weren't they acting like rabbits?
Housewives were at home to bring children to boom the population.
Do you want to say that one again?
Housewives were at home to boom the population. That was the encouragement
Exactly.
of people to actually repopulate the country.
Yes. Quite.
Yes, quite. That's
It can't be that bad. This is not The Wicked Lady.
no, it isn't.
It's not Red Ellen. It was all right. It was good. And 10 being
thrown back to the 50s.
put it back to the 50s.
No, and 1 being thrown back to the 50s. Never to return.
Darling, I'm home.
Home I'm Darling.
That's the one. Because I want to say Honey, I'm home. Scores then, please, Richard, for Honey, I'm Darling. On a
Home I'm Darling.
Sound effects then, please, Richard.
I'll give this a pleasant applause. It was a watchable production, but it was a lot of holes to discuss. It was a lot of holes to discuss. What does that mean?
There's a lot of holes.
No, it was a lot of holes.
There was a lot of holes.
Yeah. You this time. It was me this
No,
time.
you do this one.
Okay. I shall do this one. You do you do
On today's episode.
we will be discussing
Yeah.
yeah.